Hey there! In today's video, we'll be diving into an important concept in JavaScript, variable scope. Scope refers to the availability of variables and functions in certain parts of the code. So, let's get started. JavaScript has two types of scope, global scope and local scope. Let's begin with global scope. A variable declared at the top of a program or outside of a function is considered a global scope variable. Global variables can be accessed and modified anywhere in the program. Let's see an example. We have a variable x declared at the top of our program, making it a global variable. This means that variable x can be used anywhere in our program. Inside our function called greet, we access the variable x using console log to display its value. Let's call the function greet. As you can see, the output of x variable inside our function is the current value, hello. Now, let's access the x variable inside our function and change its value to string hi. After changing the value of x variable inside the function greet, let's log the x variable before and after the function call. The output of x variable before the function call is still its current value, hello. However, after calling the function, the output is now high. This demonstrates that the value of a global variable can change when modified inside a function. It's important to note that choosing global variables can introduce an unknown results in your program. As a best practice, it's recommended to avoid excessive use of global variables to maintain code clarity and prevent unintended side effects. Furthermore, in JavaScript, a variable can be used without declaring it. When a variable is used without declaration, it automatically becomes a global variable. Let's see an example. Here, the x variable is used without declaration, making it a global variable. Let's log the x variable to display its value. As you can see, we get the output hello world. However, what would happen if we declare the variable x using the let keyword? Let's find out. When we declare the x variable using the let keyword and try to access it outside of the function, it throws an error. This is because the x variable becomes a local variable and can only be accessed within the function. Now, let's move on to local scope. Variables declared inside any function are called local variables. Local variables cannot be accessed or modified outside the function declaration. Here's an example of a local scope variable. In this case, we have both a global scope variable and a local scope variable. Let's log the x variable and concatenate it with the y variable. Let's save and refresh the code to see the output. As you can see, the output is hello world. However, if we try to access the y variable outside of the function, it will throw an error. This is because the y variable can only be accessed within its declaring function. Lastly, if a global variable and a local variable have same name, changing the value of one variable does not affect the value of the other variable. And that wraps up our video on JavaScript variable scope. We've covered the global scope, the local scope, the impact of global variables, and the limitations of local variables. Remember to use global variables sparingly to avoid unintended consequences in your code. That's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and happy coding!